Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast today with Scott McKechnie is with us today. He's the founder and CEO at PLAI Sport. So we're going to get into Scott's cricket background as a player, as a coach. Lived in Hong Kong for a while. So it will be quite a fun one. Now I'm going to discover that sport because I've heard about cricket, never played, saw it. It looks really entertaining. Anything that involves smashing a ball at high speed looks fun to me. So yeah, it's gonna be fun. This podcast is brought to you by podpire.com. If you want to start, scale, be invited to podcasts like this one, find sponsors, scale your podcast to learn, to get leads, to grow your community, get subscribers, and even get clients. Podpire.com for that. Scott, welcome to the pod. Can you tell me a bit more about yourself and a bit more about PLAI Sport?
Absolutely. It's great to be here, Charles. Thanks so much for having me. So look, born and bred in the UK. I was born in Manchester in the north of England, pretty cold, pretty miserable up there. But I was brought up here on the south coast in Kent, and I have had a lifelong love affair with sport. And as an 11-year-old, I found the game of cricket. Cricket is a huge sport, second most popular sport in the world. Billions and billions of fans. And on my pursuit of playing and exploring the game, I was lucky enough to carve out a 12-year professional playing career. But I recognized fairly young that I was wired a little bit differently to my peers. For me, being a professional player was not the be all and end all. I wanted to wake up every single day and work in sport. And I've been lucky enough to do that now for 15 years. But in 2014, I moved to Hong Kong, where I spent 7 years working at some of the biggest sports clubs in the continent. And it was through that phase that I really grew as an individual and built this entrepreneurial passion. And in 2020, I recognized that community sport needed more support. So we built PLAI, which is a mobile application which helps community sports clubs across 175 global markets to run more smoothly. So we're giving the free digital tools which will help community sports to empower young people and provide them with the vehicle to a better quality of life.
Tell me about your career. First, where did you started? Why did you decided into sports? Was it a natural decision for you because you were raised that way and you were quite good at cricket? Tell me about that previous life of yours.
Yeah, well, growing up, my mum was a dance teacher, so she was the athleticism. My dad, he was a tradie. He fitted kitchens and bathrooms and boilers. And, it's pretty clear that I got my mum's genes on the athletic side. And, I didn't have an option as a child. I had to dance. I did gymnastics, and I learned some really important skills through that journey, whether it's depth perception, spatial awareness, my space within this space, and how I can get from A to B in the fastest possible route. These are all great skills when it comes to team sport. And after exploring football and rugby and tennis and badminton, cricket just stuck as an 11 or 12-year-old. My stepdad used to play cricket. And, by his own admission, he wasn't the best player in the world. But I don't think I've ever met somebody who was so passionate about anything as my stepdad was with cricket. So I had a good grounding in sport. And I think through my mum's history as a dance teacher and then my stepdad's passion for the game, cricket really stuck. And, between 11 and 17 years old, all you can really do is play. But beyond that, I fell in love with coaching and building out really strong cricket programs that would attract new members and new children to the sport and have their lives enriched through the vehicle of cricket, the way in which mine was. And cricket was the vehicle that took me all around the world and then allowed me to build the skills and build the network that I needed to then go out and build our global technology platform within sport. I hope we're helping a lot of people. That's certainly the mission.
Tell me about the sports of cricket itself. It's a team sport. So what makes you a great team player there? And, like in hockey and in football, there's always a team captain and so forth that demonstrates the most leadership and can unite the team together. How does one become that in sports?
Yeah, look, I think the skills when it comes to team sport in a big way are not too dissimilar to teams in business. When it comes to leadership first, are leaders born or created? I certainly have my idea. Leaders aren't born. We're all born as cells. Fundamentally, we're organisms, but I think environment is really important. And, for young people, the environment that they're brought up within and the space that they're given to make their own choices, make their own decisions, and work things out, I think is really, really important. And, cricket's a long game. Some games of cricket can last 5 days and you can get to the end of the game and it can still be a draw. So you spend a lot of time with these people. And therefore, the communication skills, the camaraderie, just fundamentally being a good person is so, so important because you spend a lot of time with these people. So look, when it comes to team building and leadership, I think the core skills are just what they are in business. I think it's all about being honest. It's about being transparent. It's about being kind. It's about showing gratitude for the people you have around you. And when you get all of these things right and you create that harmonious environment within a team, sport or business, with good leadership and with clear vision and a collective group that are willing to work really, really hard towards a shared end goal, there's not a huge amount you can't achieve.
Why did you retire in 2020?
Yeah, very good question. I'm now back out of retirement. It's been a weird few years, but in 2020, I'd moved my career across to Singapore. I was working at the Singapore Cricket Club, incredible club, hundreds of years of history, 5,000 members. And I was running the cricket program at what is a very, very big club. And I loved that work. Like I said earlier in the podcast, for me, I wanted to wake up and work in sport every day. And I was doing that at the Singapore Cricket Club. Singapore, a great city, great people. It's super clean. It's super efficient. It's awesome. But, I had my wife. I had my business that was very, very young at the time in PLAI, the mobile app. And I had my full-time work at the Singapore Cricket Club, as well as my international playing career. And I've never been very good at doing things at 50%. I'm all in or I'm all out, whether it's my diet, whether it's my business, whether it's my sport and my marriage, I'm all in and I will be for a long, long time. But, I was getting to a point where I was spinning so many plates and I recognized that I was probably doing all of those things at maybe 60%. And that's not me. Something had to give. And it wasn't going to be my wife. It wasn't going to be the job that I love. And it wasn't going to be the business that I knew could have such a massive impact on a community that needed real help. At the time, I was 30 years old. The body was getting pretty sore and I'd achieved some great things in cricket. And it felt like the right time to draw a line. However, COVID-19 changed a few things. My business grew exponentially and I had to move away from the Singapore Cricket Club to grow my business and to support the next stage of it. And then I just had my business. We're a tech company. I could work from anywhere in the world where I had Wi-Fi. So I had flexibility to travel. My wife was super, super supportive. And I wanted to go and play a bit more cricket. So now I'm back playing international cricket. I've maybe got a couple more years, but my hamstrings are getting pretty sore, Charles. I can't lie.
What about your mindset? Because the average age in cricket must be like I don't know, 35, or the athletes, they max out their career in sports pretty quick. So how do you do nowadays with a stronger mind but a body that is somewhat slowing down? How do you keep on growing?
Yeah, you're not doing me a disservice. This body is definitely slowing down. But look, when it comes to mindset, I've always been a super, super positive person. I've always strived to get the very best out of my ability and my circumstance. And, I think mindset is everything. I think it's sometimes very hard to recognize your own potential. You wake up and you look in the mirror and you see the same person every single day. And it's easy, I suppose, to miss all of the potential and capabilities that one has. But I've always been really, really clear about a few things. And it's the advice that I share with any young entrepreneur that I meet today, in that if you're doing work that you're really, really passionate about, and if you're willing to work really, really hard for the things that you want to achieve, and if you're willing to think big, so big that it scares you, and if it doesn't scare you, you're probably not thinking big enough, then there's nothing that you can't go out and achieve. You need those core things. It's got to be passionate. You've got to be willing to work hard. And that's always been me. I've always been willing to work hard. I get that from my mum and my dad. Their work ethic was incredible. I've always been passionate about my work. I've carved out a career in global sport. And I'm not afraid of thinking big. You know, different people can take on different amounts of risk, and it can be pretty uncomfortable. But you know what? When it's uncomfortable, you're in the right place, because you're going to make mistakes and you're going to learn. And off the back of those failures, you're going to grow as a person, and you're going to start to recognize and hopefully fulfill your absolute potential.
Love it. Tell me about the app itself, exactly how it came about. I mean, athletes, they make good entrepreneurs most of the time. They are not scared of adversity. They think somewhat differently, and they also have this relentless energy that comes from just hacking your body to give you that precious energy for quite a long athletic career. So tell us about the idea, and tell us about the challenges that you faced, because I'm pretty sure COVID was a nice wave to surf, but was it easy at first to start it? Tell us about that story.
Yeah, look, I mean, I'm not a big believer in, good luck. I think that you create your own luck, depending on how you put yourself out into the world every single day, depending on how much you give back to the people around you, to the extent where they want to come on your journey with you and help and support the things that you're passionate about as well. I think you have the opportunity to create your own environment and create your own good fortune. That said, in Singapore in early 2020, I met a couple of amazing guys who became two of my very best friends in the world, Alex and Callum. And these were two guys that had deep, deep skills in technology, in building apps, where to host them, how to build the infrastructure, how to deliver it to a global market. And when paired with my expertise, which is the mechanics of community sport and sport more holistically on a global scale, we finally had the opportunity to build PLAI. Now, PLAI is a one-stop shop for any community sports team. We support over 120 sports in 175 global markets. And what we do is bring everything that a community sports team needs to run a great sports program into one place, the PLAI mobile app. So it's how they share news and communications with their members. It's how they recognize player availability and select teams to play sport on the weekend or midweek. Most importantly, we help them receive all of their revenue, because, Charles, if you're playing at a community sports club, you've got to buy the clothing, you've got to pay your membership fees, you have to pay for every game that you play for the club normally. You have to pay for events to social functions at the club as well. And the club's got to have a great mechanism for receiving that money, because if the club doesn't receive that revenue in a timely manner, the club can't grow and thrive and invest and prosper. Now, we've got some great data that suggests that cash slippage in community sports clubs is about 14% every year. The average sports club will be doing somewhere between $15,000 and $50,000 every year. It doesn't take a mathematician to work out that a lot of cash is slipping through the net. So they would use the shop function in our mobile app to digitally receive all the funds that they need, so the club can make loads of bank, reinvest it back into the program, grow and create more opportunities for the next generation of guys like myself. So we've built a one-stop shop for community sport, and the growth has been incredible, exponential, and it just validates that there's a need in the market for better tools, which is a really great thing.
What challenges do sports club owner usually face, and how do you solutionate that, other than the payments and so forth? Because to me, it seems that it might be an industry or a business that is still ran on the back of Excel sheets or paper at best. Sometimes it's kind of old school coaches with their pads and so forth. So what challenges are currently faced, and what new features do you potentially have on your roadmap to fix these challenges that you're seeing?
It's exactly the right question. I mean, when you think about community sports clubs, it's mum and dad coaching from the car park. It's a sibling who's preparing like the oranges for the halftime snack. One of the other parents is going around trying to collect cash. It's a volunteer-driven industry. These volunteers, they've got families, full-time jobs, and trying to run their sports club is their third priority at best, and rightly so. And as a byproduct, it means that the running of these clubs can often be quite fractious. Communications on WhatsApp, it's so intrusive. You have parents getting messages all weekend and in the middle of the night after a long week of work when they're trying to relax with their family. It's too intrusive. And plus, when there's maybe a World Cup going on, there's loads of banter in the WhatsApp group, which is great. And WhatsApp plays a role for camaraderie in sport and amongst teams, no doubt. But it wasn't built to run sports clubs. And really key messages get lost in the noise of all of the banter. So communications is a problem, and the intrusive nature of them. Clubs not receiving their revenue in a timely manner. It's a big problem. The clubs just can't grow without their money. And then when we have a look at taking attendance on clipboards with a piece of paper and it's raining, you know, running a sports club is a nightmare, and it's often done across loads of different systems. So it would be email and WhatsApp and social media for communications. It would be maybe a Dropbox and a Google Drive to store key files. It could be a Google form for player registrations at the start of the year. It's going to be spreadsheets, Google Sheets, Excel to see who's available and which teams are selected, and player attendance, particularly for kids in junior sport. It's paper and clipboards and pens and pencils on a match day when you're trying to work out who's paid. It's a nightmare. I just touched on probably 10 different functions. And certainly when new people come into the job of running the sports club and taking over the responsibility, how on earth do I teach them how to use all of these systems? And then the running of the club becomes really fragmented, and young people can't prosper within the club because the club is running inefficiently. That's where we come to help.
How do you make your money? How much do you charge? And how do you target new clients?
A great question. And it's something that I'm so transparent about, because look, when I look at the market of community sport, there's about 3 billion people in the world. 1 in every 2.5 people on the planet are engaged with a sport or an activity of some kind. There's also about 4.8 billion smartphones now in circulation, which for me is a much scarier statistic. So, you know, if we're looking at a total addressable market of about 3 billion people, hold that thought, and we're all clear. But a total market of, say, 3 billion people, you know, that's a massive market. Now, how many of those people can we reach? Our service addressable market, about 800 million people. And I think our industry is therefore quite similar to the activewear industry. You know, you've got New Balance, Nike, Adidas, Gymshark, Under Armour, all doing these great things. It's an industry big enough for 4 or 5 really great products. But when I looked at the traditional team management solutions, I recognized 2 things. Firstly, a lot of the more traditional solutions were founded in 2008, 2010, 2013. And in the sphere of technology, it's not a great thing, because that technology has been built on a legacy code base, a code base that's 10 years old. And if we think about where technology has gone in 10 years, to move that megatron of computer code onto a more modern day, cloud-based, intuitive, technological grounding, it'll probably cost a couple of $1 million. And a lot of them haven't done it. But that's now impacting community sport. They're left with tools which are out of date, which are not growing and innovating and developing in line with what people expect from technology in 2023. And that's hurting the user experience and the experience of people participating in sport. And then for those platforms that were built really well through our lens, they were charging the clubs monthly or annual subscriptions to use the software. And look, in 2023, I don't know that subscriptions is going to be the way forwards in the long term of business and technology, because here in the UK, economic crisis, energy crisis, cost of living crisis. And, you know, when my bank account gets a little bit low, the first thing I'm doing is going through all of my subscriptions and working out which ones I can turn off. I want to get away from that commitment. Now, community sport is about bringing people together through a shared passion. And I see a monthly or an annual subscription on those clubs to be a barrier to participation. It puts risk and overheads on the clubs. They have expenses before they've made any money themselves. And that cost gets pushed down to the members of sport, which means community sport gets more expensive. So we don't charge our users any monthly or annual subscription to go live on PLAI and get set up and start managing their team in a really great way. Instead, we give them the tools to bring in all of their money digitally, and we keep a very small percentage on every transaction. similar to the marketplace style of economy or digital economy. What that means, though, is that for a huge chunk of our revenue, if the team or the club isn't making any money, neither are we. And you know what? I have no issue with that, because we want to de-risk clubs. We want to give them great technology on an economic and commercial basis that they can sustain. And I think we've done a great job of that.
Why do you think Gymshark grew so fast and does so well nowadays?
I think you have to look at the founders with these things. You know, I think about Ben, the founder of Gymshark, and I've listened to a lot of his work and a lot of his podcasts, and I've had a look at a lot of his content. And, you know, what I see in Ben is a few things. Firstly, someone who is unbelievably clear on his mission. He knew exactly where he wanted to drive that company from day one. He thought big, one of those core values that I referenced earlier. It's clear that he was willing to work super, super hard, and he was really passionate about what he was doing as well. But also, I think there was a really important moment in his career, because he was the CEO, founder of Gymshark. But there was a time where he recognized within himself that he probably wasn't the best CEO of a company that was growing at the speed that Gymshark was. And he pulled himself out of that role, and he went into a creative role, a design role. And that, for me, shows incredible awareness and humility, because it wasn't about being the CEO. It wasn't about the business cards and the fancy suits and all of the accolades that he as CEO would have pouring upon him. It was about, how can I position myself within this business to maximize our opportunity for success? And I think that tells you a lot about a person, because in that moment, it's not about Ben. It's not about the founder. It's about the people within the organization, the customers, the staff, the shareholders, our bosses as founders, CEOs, fundamentally. And I think when people display and present those kind of leadership traits, paired with passion, work ethic, and a big, big idea, I think they had a great chance of succeeding from day one.
I agree with that. Last, what role would potentially play influencers and some of your former friends or athletes that can help you promote the brand?
Yeah, look, I mean, I'll be really, really frank with you, Charles. I have a no dickhead policy at PLAI. It's an all blacks rugby mentality where we're trying to associate with great people. And, you know, when we're recruiting and looking for new people, we now have a team of 35 and growing. I want brilliant, brilliant people involved in this organization, whether that's our staff, whether that's our ambassadors. And we've got some great ambassadors. Boyd Rankin, international cricketer, great guy. Lewis Rees, professional cricketer, great guy. Harinder Sekon, double world record holder in the high jump and a Malaysian athlete, great guy. Rachel Newborough, professional footballer here in the UK. She's incredible at what she does. And we're just trying to be magnetic to great people. And when I talk about great people, what do I mean? I mean people that care about people that understand the role that sport plays in shaping young lives, and people that understand just how important community sports clubs are to the ecosystem of any community on the planet, the way it brings people together and creates positivity, the health, social, societal benefits of sport. The list is endless about how good a thing sport is to be involved with. So we bring in great ambassadors that care about the product, care about the mission, but most importantly, care about the people that we're trying to serve and share our mission of leaving community sport in a better place than we found it.
Love it, man. Where can people find out more about you, Scott?
So many places. Look, go to www.plaisport.com. That's PLAI sport.com. You can find us on the socials at PLAI Sport, on X, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook. And for me personally, TikTok, Instagram, at McKechnie Scott. I don't even know my own name. At McKechnie Spot. And hit me up with a DM, get in touch. I love to engage with people in sport, with young entrepreneurs, people with big ideas that they maybe don't know what to do with yet. I'd love to help.
Love it, dude. And I am Charles Cormier, your host. You can find us at CEO Wisdom Podcast, or if you want to start scale, be invited to podbuyer.com.